We have Ole Miss currently ranked 12th in the nation, 3-0, taking on Alabama, who currently is ranked as the best team in college football at number 1, who is 4-0. Alabama enters this game as a 14.5-point favorite. This game is going to be played on CBS, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I'm really excited for this game because normally every time Ole Miss plays Alabama, the games normally are pretty exciting. In Alabama, if you're a Bama fan, you have a lot of cold sweats running down every time you play Ole Miss because this is a team that has had Alabama's number a pretty good amount of times. And you look at Lane Kiffin. One thing about Lane Kiffin is his offense is going to score some points. I don't care how good Alabama's defense is. I understand that Alabama has one of the best defenses in college football, but we know that Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are going to put some points up on Alabama's defense. Alabama is not unbeatable. Alabama, a couple of weeks ago against Florida, the game looked like it was going to be a blowout. And then Florida was able to crawl their way back in. And then Alabama started showing signs of being human. Alabama started showing blood. You know what happened to Alabama in that game against Florida was, Alabama was getting, everything they wanted to in the first quarter. But then in the second half, Florida came out and they brought that knife out and they made some cuts in Alabama. And Alabama started showing blood. And even though Alabama won that game, Florida was the better team physically. I've never seen a team push around Alabama in a very long time the way Florida did. Florida had a lot of success running the football. And Alabama's run defense is a weakness that Florida exploited. And Ole Miss definitely could do the same thing. Now, when you think of Lane Kiffin, you think of somebody who likes to have explosive offense and throwing the football all over the field. And although Ole Miss does have the 7th best passing attack in the nation, and they do have one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and Matt Corral, one thing that I'm pretty sure a lot of people may not know is that Ole Miss also is really good when it comes to running the football. Did you know that Ole Miss currently right now has a top 10 rushing attack? They're 6th in college football in rushing yards per game. I didn't even know that my damn self. So for Ole Miss, this is a really scary offense. Statistically, this is the best offense in the country. They're number 1 in yards per game. They're number 1 in points per game. So for Ole Miss, the question is, can they outscore Alabama? Can they keep up with Alabama offensively? That's not the question. The question is, can Ole Miss defense get some stops in this game? Because we know that Alabama's offense is going to roll, but we don't know if Ole Miss defense is going to be able to get any stops. So for Alabama, even if Ole Miss is able to put up a lot of points on the board, at least if you're an Alabama fan, you have the assurance of knowing that Alabama is at least capable of getting at least 4 or 3 stops. Ole Miss, if you're a Rebels fan, you don't know. For all we know, Alabama's offense could score at every single possession against Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is more than capable of doing the same, but there's going to come a time when Alabama's defense is going to get a couple of stops here and there. But if you're an Ole Miss fan, one thing that you definitely have to be really encouraged about is that your defense has been really good on third down. You have the 7th best third down defense in college football right now. You allow the opposing team to convert on third down 26.92% of the time, which is really good. And if Ole Miss is going to win this game, they don't need to force Alabama to go 3 and out every single drive. What Ole Miss needs is they need some key stops. They just need 2 or 3 big stops in this game, and that could possibly be the difference between them pulling off the upset in this game. And they can do that 3 ways, okay? The first one would be taking the turnover route, okay? Trying to force Bryce Young to make a mistake. Although Bryce Young has been pretty smart with the football, he's only thrown 1 interception all year. So either you try and force a mistake, force some turnovers on Alabama's side, or 2, you try to be good situationally. You could have the approach of having a bend but don't break defense, and that can go 1 or 2 ways. The first way is, okay, Alabama's driving down the field on you, but you don't allow Alabama to score touchdowns inside the red zone. You allow Alabama to only come away with field goals. Or you could find ways to get Alabama off the field on third down, because your third down defense is really good this year, at least from what it looks like so far. So for Ole Miss, you're probably not going to, force Alabama to go 3-9, stuff like that. But you definitely can force some key stops in this game, rather that be on turnovers or rather that be being good situationally. If you can get Alabama the third down and you can get them off the field, that's one way. If you can force Alabama to come away with field goals in the red zone instead of touchdowns, that works as well. Because if you're an Ole Miss fan, you're confident that your offense can score in Alabama. You just want to know, is your defense going to be able to give you enough breaks to win the game? So I expect to see a lot of explosive plays in this game. We're probably going to see a lot of points scored. I wouldn't be surprised if we see both of these two teams combined for well over 100 points total. There's going to be a lot of offense. If you're a fan of defense, you probably want to try to find another game, because this isn't going to be the game for that. If you're a fan of defense, you probably want to watch Arkansas, Georgia early on. Probably try to watch Wisconsin, Michigan, because you're probably not going to find a lot of defense in this game. There's going to be a lot of points scored. But if you're a fan of offense, there's going to be a lot of points, and there's going to be a lot of offense, and there's going to be a lot of highlight reel plays. Now, Matt Corral has played really good so far. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, JT, Ole Miss hasn't played nobody. I mean, Louisville is okay. I mean, Tulane looks to be one of the better G5 opponents. So although, they haven't played, like a great opponent, they still have played some fairly solid football teams. I think Tulane is solid. I think Louisville for so far this year looks pretty solid as well. So I know a lot of Alabama fans are going to be like, Ole Miss hasn't been tested. I mean, they kind of have. It's not like they're playing scrubs. They're playing some pretty solid programs. You look at Matt Corral, 997 pass yards, 9 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 158 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns on the ground. He's been really good. Bryce Young, I've been really impressed with how Bryce Young has performed this year. 1,127 pass yards, 15 touchdowns. I think he's like second currently in the nation in touchdown passes. He only has 1 interception, and he's completing over 70% of his passes. So he's really smart, he's really efficient, and he's really hard to bring down. I'm taking Alabama to win. Roll Tide. I don't trust Ole Miss defense. I think if you're an Alabama fan, Ole Miss is probably going to scare you because they're going to score a lot of points. But when it comes down to it, if Ole Miss offense has to win this game and your defense is on the field, I trust Alabama's defense. I think that Alabama's defense is going to show up in the big moments, and that's what this game is going to come down to. Which opposing team's defense is going to be able to get the big stops in the big moments? Which defense is going to get the big stop with 2 minutes left before we go to halftime? Which defense is going to be able to get a big stop as we enter the fourth quarter of the football game? Which defense is going to force the opposing team to end up turning the football over? I'll probably side with Alabama. And I know Ole Miss has some talent on defense, but you look at Alabama's defense, the fact that they can get pressure on the quarterback and they have a pretty good secondary, although they are vulnerable against the run. I feel like Nick Saban and this Alabama defense, they're still going to be able to get some more key stops than what Ole Miss is going to be able to do, and that's why I'm rolling with Alabama. I think Alabama's going to win this game 48-38 is my final score prediction in this game.